You're listening to the Valley Labor Report with David Story and Jacob Morrison.
Let's talk about co-ops. We had a caller talk about co-ops. He said that he thought that was interesting, but he wanted our thoughts. And so, my thoughts are basically what I said before the break. I think that worker ownership is great, and I think that actually if some of the criticisms of worker ownership, of worker co-ops, are that it's not as efficient, that you're not going to be able to be as efficient, to do as good a work. And there have been studies on this that study the productivity of worker co-ops versus traditional hierarchical businesses. And actually, what you'll find is that not only, of course, that you would imagine that people that work in worker co-ops would make more, would have better benefits, would have more flexibility, like their working conditions and their pay would just be better as a function of worker ownership, as a function of the fact that they don't have a traditional business owner. Everybody is an owner, so everybody gets gets a part of the profits. But in addition to that, worker co-ops are actually more productive and more efficient than traditional hierarchical businesses. And so, the question isn't, can this work? Because it obviously can, and it does where it's been implemented. And worker co-ops actually, they die at the same rate as traditional hierarchical businesses. So there's certainly no disadvantage, and there are multiple studies that show advantages to productivity and efficiency and cost and everything like that when you move to worker ownership of a firm. So the question then is, how do we make the transition? I think one of the low-hanging fruits is just making it as easy to start a worker co-op as it is a traditional hierarchical business. You can get business loans, you can get tax breaks, you can get all sorts of things much easier as a traditional business than you can as a worker co-op. So that's the first thing. That's just make it as easy to start a worker co-op. I think the second thing is, this is something that Jeremy Corbyn and the Labour Party pushed in the United Kingdom, which I think is just simply common sense if you think about it. It's a putting into law a right of first refusal, which means that at any time, in a traditional hierarchical business, if the business owner wants to sell or go bankrupt or fundamentally change the structure of the organization, before he can do that, he has to offer it to the workers at a fair market value. He cannot sell it to somebody else before he offers it to the workers.
Or she.
Or she,
we're kind of getting gender specific there, but yeah,
or
I think
she.
that's the purest form of a democracy in work, is for the workers to actually be working for themselves,
right.
Collective. It's the purest form of unionism.
Well, and it's not even, it's not even expropriation. Like, this is just like these people, the people that worked at a firm, they put in some cases, their life's work was dedicated to working for this firm. And it's just saying, look, the owner can't do whatever the hell he wants with this business. He has to offer it at a fair market price to the workers. And then the government should offer a loan to the workers so that they can buy the business and turn it into a worker co-op. I think another thing that would be good is for unions. We talk about not relying on the government. What I just said was a government policy. I think it would be good for unions to start pushing for a right of first refusal clause in their contracts, because oftentimes we can't rely on the government to put in good policies. And so a way to get around not having to wait on the government is, if you're on a negotiating committee, if you are in a union, start agitating around this issue. Start talking to your coworkers and say, hey, I think that our boss, or the owner of this company, shouldn't just be able to sell this company to whoever the heck, it's some Chinese capitalist or something. I don't think that they should be able to do that. I think they should. Or venture capitalists or Elon Musk. I think that they should have to offer it to us first. We're the ones doing the work. I think we should have an opportunity to buy the company if we want. Yeah. Doesn't mean you have to. but that you should have the opportunity. And I think that should be something that unions start pushing for in their contracts. And so I think one, it's obviously good for worker ownership of firms. I think it's good. And I think those are some real practical, pragmatic ways to begin the transition.
Yeah. I mean, you're in my wheelhouse. It's the one thing that I have consistently spoke about for years and years and years is worker ownership of the workplace. I mean, at the end of the day, it's very easy to talk about risk reward, and a lot of times those on the right like to allude to the job creator or these, and they're taking all of the risk. Well, let me tell you, the job creator, their so-called job creator, is not taking that much risk. The ones that's taking the risk are the low-wage workers that are uprooting their families, going to another industry and starting from scratch and relying on one person, not a group of workers, but one person to make all the right decisions that's going to sustain that person's family or himself for years to come. That, my friends, is risk.
Right.
There is no risk in starting a business and being able to file bankruptcy and walk away with it without any debt. There is no risk in that. The risk is the worker that's living hand to mouth, week to week, and is praying that business stays afloat, and he has zero control over whether it does or not.
Right. Folks, this has been the Valley Labor Report. You can find us online, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. Make sure you're following us. You're subscribing to the YouTube channel. You're supporting us on Patreon at patreon.com/the Valley Labor Report. And we will see you next week.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving. Thanks for tuning in. We appreciate your time. If you want to see what we're up to throughout the week and get our snide quips about the news of the day, then you should follow us on social media. We're on Facebook at facebook.com/Valley Labor Report. We're on Twitter at Labor Reporters. I'm on Twitter at JacobM_AL. David is on Twitter at Radical Unionist. That's spelled RADICL Unionist. If you missed part of the show and want to go back and watch it later, search YouTube for The Valley Labor Report and subscribe to our channel. You can go back and watch the full show there, and we also clip segments throughout the week. And we also upload the program on more than 11 different podcasting apps. So you can see if we're on your listening platform of choice. You can go to thevalleylaborreport.transistor.fm/subscribe. And if you appreciate our work and want to help us stay on the air, then consider throwing us a couple dollars a month on patreon.com/The Valley Labor Report.